Welcome everyone to our Fine Art Reproduction tutorial. Some very specific questions this week have come in from various sources. And it's interesting that they all more or less focus on a specific area of our fine art reproduction workflows, plus considerations at the very start of our fine art reproduction workflows. Is it possible to increase the fidelity, the accuracy of that initial capture to make everything that subsequently follows easier, more efficient, and certainly more accurate? So let's look at those questions and start thinking our way through them and how we might go about addressing such topics. And I should put a caveat on the table that these are certainly, unashamedly, quite advanced topics. This assumes a fair degree of understanding and practice in this field of fine art reproduction. So let's have a look at those topics. And in a sense, topics 2, 3, and 4 are addressing hard proofing, which is about the production of derivatives from our preservation assets. And how do you verify that you are doing a good job against prescribed outcomes? And in particular about proofing the digital or offset printing press that the publication in this case is being printed on. And therefore also what inkjet papers are available for proofing. How do we judge their suitability? How are they defined? Do I just print on Canson Platine because I love the paper? And so on. So these first 4 topics are certainly all about the production of derivatives, noting we have extensive ISO guidelines, recommendations of where to start in this world of fine art reproduction, cultural heritage digitization, and in particular in-house hard proofing, representing and therefore ensuring confidence, understanding and control over what goes to press in order to achieve specific printed outcomes on press. So just as we have standards for monitor calibration, we have standards for other conditions. That's what we now need to begin focusing on. That's what the second, third, and fourth topics are all about. We need to produce accurate proof prints in-house to accompany our design files, our PDFs, what we send to the designer, what the designer sends to pre-press, to indicate what we expect our images will look like on press. The problem is their workflow is low volume, but really high quality. So they're uncertain whether the expense and the steep learning curve of purchasing, installing, and learning to work with a high-end commercial RIP that does this proofing as part of its print path. The same RIPs that are used in the factories where the printing presses and pre-presses are located, whether that's justified. And therefore, can you suggest alternatives for an in-house proofing workflow? I want to begin by reassuring you that well over 15 years ago, addressing exactly this question, we proved conclusively that through a simple, accurately profiled RGB print path, we can easily exceed these printing standards. We don't need necessarily a high-end in-house RIP in order to create in-house guide prints. Not contract proofs, not something you would sign a financial contract against, but as guide prints that are made and verified to be within the printing standard we're printing to. For example, 2013, here we are in-house proofing on an Epson proofing printer with standardized test charts like this FOGRA media wedge and specific delta E limits we need to verify and match. Printing this through really simple non-CMYK print flows and with third-party software with summaries of those standards, these quality controls. Yes, big green tick in every one of these verifiable standards. Today, we can still print incredibly accurately, as I'm about to show you, through a Mirage RGB print path, through a MegaRip RGB print path. What's missing is all the basic color software, third-party software, to prove, to verify, measure, improve upon until our results magically exceeded the verification standards for that particular offset printing press standard, such as FOGRA 52. I also want to look at a real-world example of this workflow for a publication with the National Library of Australia. Any of you who have done our landscape masterclass, the great Peter Dombrovskis and his archive that's now in our National Library in Canberra, the production of his book, Journeys into the Wild, and the exhibition that followed. I edited all the images, I did all the pre-pressing, contributed a great deal to this magnificent reintroduction of the incredible Peter Dombrovskis and his remarkable photography, not just for the conservation and political values it carried and how it changed the politics of environmental justification, care and concern in this country, but also for the prodigious talents, creative artistry that he exhibited. Here's a hard copy publication, and here's one of our in-house proof prints. Every page of the book, because of the incredible importance of getting this right. Here's Rock Island Bend. Those of you who know the history of the politics of environmentality in Australia, you understand the unbelievable game-changing significance of this image. And the whole book was proofed. Here's one of those pages, one of the press proofs. And this is the printing press's FOGRA media wedge, which I could measure just like I measured our FOGRA media wedge, the same test chart, verified in both cases that their proofs, their contract proof, what we sign off on for the book production, exceeds the standard that this was being printed to, just as our guide prints do the same thing. Now, for these examples, I'm just going to concentrate on FOGRA 52, a difficult proofing standard, because of the amount of optical brightening agents in these press sheets. Unlike the FOGRA 39, you can see the profound difference in paper colour that all those years ago in 2017 we printed Peter's magnificent Journeys into the Wild. Now let's look at these test charts. For example, the FOGRA 52 media wedge, which a lot of people find difficult to proof as accurately compared to, let's say, FOGRA 39 that Peter Dombrovskis' Journeys into the Wild was proofed and printed to way back in 2017. So let's tackle the hardest standard according to our understanding and experience and show you how effortless it is when every component in the workflow is standardized, taken care of, that even through a simple RGB print path with the right software, we can easily exceed even this most difficult of standards. So here I am in Photoshop, and I've opened the FOGRA media wedge and have assigned to this media wedge that FOGRA 52 PSO uncoated V3 profile. The profile that is made from the standardized data set the standard represents on press. Here we've got 100% cyan, 70%, 40%, 20%, 10% cyan, then 100% magenta, and so on. There's our paper white, and I've got my Photoshop info palette. Can't do this in Lightroom, can't do this in Capture One, can do this in Affinity, can certainly do this in Photoshop. The file is a CMYK file, and I'm going to print through Mirage, as simple an RGB print path as possible. Once printed, the LAB device-independent, unambiguous numbers measured for each of these patches will be compared to the reference file. For example, here is the FOGRA 52 Media Wedge 3 subset descriptions. The first column is the ID, patch 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then the patch name. We've got 3 rows, 24 columns. There is 100% cyan in that first patch A1. No magenta, no yellow, no black. And there are the LAB equivalents of FOGRA 52. Here I am in Photoshop's color settings with the North American General Purpose 2. It's been the default for quite some time. I have to change my conversion to absolute color metric, and those LAB values being sent to my printer are spot on. Let's send them to our RGB print path. I'm printing on a proofing paper, in this case a ChromaJet Hi-Res 180. More about proofing papers shortly. And the setup on our Epson P20000 printer is with a custom RGB profile I made according to the M1 measurement mode, the prescribed critical amount of ultraviolet radiation in the measurement data so that the fluorescence can be standardized accurately and simulate paper color. You can see how blue this paper is under that M1 level of fluorescence. And of course, I'm going to print this using absolute color metric because we're making a proof where we want all of the values, all of those LAB numbers for 100% cyan, for paper white and so on, to be sent to the printer and preserved, not perceptually or relative colorimetrically converted to the paper white of that profile. So our proofing is always done with absolute colorimetric, and I can do that effortlessly here in Mirage with this RGB workflow. I then need to measure the resulting test print, in this case the FOGRA Media Wedge version 3, according to the FOGRA 52 standard. And then I need to somehow compare my measurements with the reference file I showed you, those LAB numbers and so on. And then produce delta E Euclidean, delta E 2000 errors, differences between where the color is in the reference file and where it's ended up through my RGB print path. And then those errors need to be compared against 6 major criteria that the FOGRA Media Wedge is designed to be verified against. So the print path is effortless as long as we've got a super accurate profile. But we've got these other variables. We've got to work out, is the paper helping us achieve that standard, or is it completely unsuitable? Because if we're proofing on a very yellow stock, trying to produce a fluorescing blue like FOGRA 52, it's not going to work. So we've got to look at the proofing papers, and that's one of our questions. So let's have a look at the next part of that workflow. Having printed and measured that test strip, how we go about the verifying, but then also circle back to the other components, how we judge the suitability of a paper and what FOGRA standard is it compliant to, because there's dozens and dozens. So I'll also show you how we work this out. But first things first. Because Basic Color software, apart from its input profiler and its monitor calibration tools, are discontinued, we had to build our own FOGRA Media Wedge verifying application. Now, this is as simple as it gets, and I've just got to add that FOGRA 52 reference data, what the colors should be in those LAB numbers. I've got to stipulate what the standard is. We're proofing to PSO uncoded FOGRA 52, then load the measurement data and run that verification. Here are the results. Average delta E error for all the patches. The limit is 3.0, not even delta 1.0. Talk about passing with flying colors. But what about any single patch? -6. I've got one patch which is a little aberrant, still passes though, and I'll show you how we improve upon this even further shortly. What about paper white? How suitable is the proofing paper, in this case gamut proof matte 180 GSM? It should be less than 3 delta E. Talk about effortless passing. Now, this is important. Primary colors, the magentas, the cyans, the maximum delta E error needs to be under 5. This is insanely accurate. And this is through an RGB print path with our custom profile that is designed to ensure the accuracy of our printing according to a FOGRA 52 standard. And here's a lovely summary. And in our detailed report, there's our paper white. And that's what the limit is. This is what we have achieved. And I can export this as a PDF, which is a summary of everything, and it goes on for pages and pages. Now, what about ChromaJet High Res 180 that yesterday I ran some proofs on for this tutorial? And it's just failing on C2, how neutral that is. But these measurements were made immediately the FOGRA Media Wedge came off the printer. I waited 10 minutes and ran the spectrophotometer again over the Media Wedge. Bingo! Now, I did that on purpose as an example of how critical the standardization of what you do in a hard copy proofing workflow. On the other hand, here is the FOGRA Media Wedge, printed absolute colorimetric on high-res 180. But let's say this time it's produced a fail, even after letting it thoroughly dry, as long as the test charts I previously printed to make that RGB proofing profile to print this through Mirage according to that standard. Then in this case, we use one of our relinearizing test charts. I run this through the same print path, measure it, and with our software, optimize the printer profile and suddenly it effortlessly exceeds the standard. So if we at first don't succeed, we reiterate the profile. I can even use the FOGRA media wedge as a test chart to verify and update the accuracy of my profile in that workflow. Standardization is critical. And once you get all the components working together, it works. There's a few things though, a few components apart from what I've shown you that we need to be cognizant about. The papers, how we choose them, and other considerations. And of course, if we cannot sit on press while every page of that book is being reproduced, as I did for 3 days in the case of Journeys into the Wild, the great Peter Dombrovskis National Library of Australia publication, if you can't, then this critical standardization is even more important, because your guide prints are going to guide the people operating the press to tweak everything to get their press sheets matching. And the closer you are to what the standard is requesting, the easier it is to exceed that standard in your verification. And with that, I hope and wish you all the very best with your work in cultural heritage reproduction, and in particular, the production of derivative, scholarly, artistic, aesthetic, and otherwise, such as in the production of beautiful books, posters, limited edition prints, and so on. Wish you all the best and all the success, because when it's done, I think there are a few things that can equal it in the world of photographic competence. But it's not for the faint of heart. And it does require, as I've gone over in this tutorial, all of these components to come together with suitable time, practice, the right paper stocks, and most importantly, from the outset, agreeing on the proofing standard you're proofing to. All right. Till next time, take care. See you soon.